So here we're going to talk about what is a scatter plot and look at some correlations in those scatter plots. So a scatter plot is simply a plot showing multiple sets or multiple points of data on a coordinate plane, right? Most scatter plots deal with positive numbers, so we're only going to need to be dealing with quadrant 1 of the coordinate planes. If we think about a coordinate plane, quadrant 1 is our upper right, and we have 2, 3, and 4, just as a refresher of our quadrants. We're going to be working up in here in quadrant 1. So a correlation is a relationship or pattern seen when the data is graphed. And these relationships often have to do with lines as well, and we'll see some similarities as we go through. So if I look at these points, they're all kind of moving upwards from the left to the right. And just like we would say a line like this has a positive slope, we say that points like this have a positive correlation. When the points are moving downwards from the left to the right, we say, just like a line, this is a negative correlation. And when our points are all over the place and we kind of have no idea what they're doing, we're going to say that there is no correlation. All right. So when we're looking at correlations, we can also say whether they are strong or weak. And for our purposes, we're just going to be eyeballing this. We're not going to be doing this in a technical way. So when my points are really tight in on the line, they're really, really close, we're going to say that that's a strong correlation. But for example, if I had a plot, and I'm just going to sketch one down here, maybe it looked like this. I could say that these points are going in a positive correlation. They would have a positive correlation, but they're really far out. So kind of if I tried to capture them in an oval, it's a bit of a wider oval than the other two were, right? And we would call this a weak correlation. All right, so let's take a look at those again and graph a couple more weak correlations. So these are going to be graphs of weak. So a weak positive correlation might look like a couple of dots, again, going in the positive direction, but not really tight together. Whereas our positive strong correlation was really tight in. So if you visualize drawing a line between your data points, they were really close to that line. So a weak negative could be very similar. Again, generally going in the negative direction, right? Down when we go from left to right, but very far apart from each other. Okay, so we're going to take a look here at creating some scatter plots and then identifying what their correlation might be. So part of this is labeling our y-axis for both of these. So I'm going to do that first. So if I look at my temperatures, I want to go from a lowest temperature of 30 to a highest temperature of 70. So in order to do that, I think I'm going to count by tens, and I'm going to skip every other one. So 20, 40, 60, 80, 100. And then over here in my second example, I want to go from a smallest value of 10 to a largest value of 45. So I think for this one, we should count by fives. So 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. So I skip every other one when I'm writing just to make it a little easier. So when we're plotting these, we just want to plot them just like we would any other coordinate point. Right? First one's going to be an x value, then a y value. And it tells us down here as well, because this hours of daylight is on our x-axis. So if I was plotting the point 12:55, I go 12 and then up to 55, about where that would be, and put a point. And again, we're not counting by ones, so all of these are going to be approximate. So take a moment, pause the video, and plot your points. Now that our points are plotted, we can decide what type of correlation we have here. So if I look at these lines, they're going in a generally positive direction, so going up from the left to the right. Yeah, they look like they're going upwards. And if I think about a line going through those points, the points are all pretty close to that line. So we would call this a strong positive correlation. So let's take a moment and look at our other option here. So let's plot these points. So we'll start at 2, 16, and then you can pause the video and restart it again once you've plotted all of your points. So if we look at this data set and I draw a line, these points are much more spread out from a central line. So we could call this a weak, but they're still going upwards from left to right. So it's still a weak positive correlation.